Today is July 30th, 2011. This entry is for Julian and Prudence, and it's titled Bad Friends. What do you do? The question is, how do you tell if you've got a bad friend? Or how do you have good friends? And really, I've had 5 bad friends in my life, which, considering that I'm almost 50, is pretty good. And basically a bad friend is somebody who isn't willing to put in as much into your friendship as you are. If you like somebody more than they like you, or they don't even really like you that much, then that makes a bad friend. And it doesn't matter how much you like them, if they're not willing to like you too, then you shouldn't hang around with them. I'm going to talk about some of those bad friends I've had. I had one friend when I was a little boy, about 8 or 10 years old, who I had been friends with for a number of years, for 2 or 3 years, and at least maybe 4 or 5. And one day after school, when we got off the school bus, I saw that he was in the process of getting beaten up by a bunch of boys. And I stepped in and got them to lay off of him. And they all started to kind of focus on me. And while they were focusing on me, this boy who was my friend walked away. And I got done dealing with the bullies, and after I got done dealing with the bullies, I followed him home, and I basically said to him, "I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. You're a jerk." So that was one example. That was more of an example of a friend who was a coward. And then I had another friend after my father died, who was so freaked out by the fact that my father had died that he beat me up, and then was nasty to me for many years afterwards. Just apparently couldn't deal with the idea that somebody's father could die. It was too much for him. And he was my best friend at that point. He was my best friend. And a few years ago, 5 or 10 years ago, I ran into him again, and he apologized. And we're kind of acquaintances now. But I don't know that I would still have him as a good friend. Another time I had a friend when I lived in New York, who I had a business with. We had a painting business. And that friend, and I took on a job through our business. Then I told him, when he took on the job, I said, "Your numbers are all wrong on it. This is not gonna work out well for you." And but he took it on anyways. He didn't want to listen because it was big enough that he thought, he had dollar signs in his eyes, but he didn't really look at it very closely. And he took on the job, and when he got into it, he realized it was too much, and he asked me to help, and I said, "I'll help only if you pay me by the hour." And he said okay, and I arranged for him to pay me $10 an hour, and I worked for 40 hours for him, and so he owed me $400. And I waited a month. And he said, I didn't get as much as I thought. And I said, "That doesn't matter. You told me that you would pay me." And I waited another month, and another month, and another month. And finally, and on the 3rd or 4th month, I said to him, "Look, if you want to pay," his name is Jason. I said, "Jason, if you want to pay me just $50 a month or whatever, that's fine." I said, it's really the principle of the thing. If you can't stick to your principles, then I think we're done. And he never paid me a dime. And at the end of 6 months, I said to him, "I'm not interested in being friends with you anymore. If you can't, if you're not a person of your word, then I don't want to be friends with you. And that was it. And he came by my apartment. I lived in New York at the time. This was when I was in my 20s. And he came by the apartment a couple times to say hi, and I didn't answer I didn't answer the door. Didn't even want to talk to him. One time I did answer it. He came by and I said, "What would you like?" And because I was still really angry. He said, "You're not still angry about that?" I said, "Yeah, I am." So, the worst friend that I ever had, though, was a fellow, and goes back to when at the beginning when I said you really got to have friends who like you as much as you like them. And this was a fellow that I met in college in my freshman year, who I really, really liked. He was a very smart fellow. And while I was in college, my sister Betsy, who was also in college with us, she warned me about this guy. She said, "Look, I've talked to this guy, and he talks about you, and he doesn't say very nice things." And I was like, "Oh no, that's baloney, blah 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 blah." And then when we were done with college and we were, we'd hang out. He lived down in D.C. and I lived up in New York City at the time. And I would come down and visit him once in a while. And he came and visited me too. And so I one time I went down to visit him, and he had been dating a woman who was later to become his wife. And we were sitting in his apartment, him and his wife and I, and he said, "Oh, I got to go down and check the laundry. I'll be back in a few minutes." And as soon as he left, she turned to me and she said, "I really don't like you coming here." And I was like, "Oh." And it took me 6 months to say anything to him. And when I finally did, that was the last time I heard from him for about 15 years. And when I finally did get in touch with him, I had already decided at that point that he was not much of a friend. He was basically a piece of crap. And when I finally did get in touch with him, it was basically to say I just wanted to vent and clear the air a little bit, and say that you were a real jerk for what you did, for basically just cutting off the friendship and not having any closure. I mean, even if you just said goodbye, I think I would have been satisfied with that, because people get in relationships and they decide to get married, and when that happens, sometimes relationships change, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he basically, before that time, we had spoken pretty much every week, and then all of a sudden, nothing. And when I tried to call him again a few months later, his number had been disconnected and he'd moved. So that pretty much had said it to me. This was back when I was in my 20s. That pretty much said it to me then. But when I had a chance to talk to him again, I said, basically, "You really, really hurt me," and I basically have seen what a person of low character and what low regard you have for your friends. And I said, "I don't ever want to speak to you again. I'm just letting you know, that I want to have my closure too." And he said, "Oh, you'll be in touch again, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "No, I won't. And I won't be." So there are people out there who are very attractive and who can be very nice, but there has to be a balance in all friendships, a balance between how much two people like each other. It could be a little bit out of balance, but not a lot. Everybody has to pitch in. And if your friends don't like you and don't make as much effort to be with you and to hang out with you and to be in your company as you do, then they're not likely to be your friends. Friendship is all about mutuality. And the best friends are the people who love you for who you are, and you know that they love you for who you are because they want to see you and talk to you and be with you. If you like that person and they don't like you, walk away. And there'll be lots of people like that. And there'll be people you meet who like you more than you like them. That's not so hard to walk away. So, that's my segment on friendship and on friends. I have really good friends now, by the way. I have the best friends that a person could ask for. A lot of them. And they don't come around all the time. And I thought I was almost done. They don't come around all the time. Sometimes you don't have any or many. But the ones who are really worthwhile, they stay. They don't go anywhere. Even if that means that you just write letters to each other, or if you're corresponding on email or on the other side of the world, they're still your friends. And it doesn't change, usually. So, that's it about friends. And this is for Julian and Prudence.